Welcome to Functional Philosophy. I'm Charles Tew. That's T as in Tango, E as in Echo, and W as in Whiskey. This is episode number 36, and its title is The Status of Cryptocurrencies Like Bitcoin. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to discuss cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Cryptocurrencies are all the rage among freedom-oriented people. I use the term freedom-oriented to refer to what most people would call libertarians, small L libertarians. Just anybody who thinks the government should basically leave you alone, aside from doing some certain things to protect you. I don't use libertarian for obvious reasons, but that's what I mean by freedom-oriented. Anyway, many freedom-oriented people are fanatical about cryptocurrencies. So I'm moving into a new area here. I'm going to antagonize a whole new group of people because I have some critical things to say about Bitcoin. It's not all critical, but, well, listen and you'll find out. So what is Bitcoin, just in case you are unfamiliar? What are cryptocurrencies in general? Cryptocurrencies are, well, first, I don't think they're currencies. That's a misnomer. But they are kind of digital asset that people exchange and which are set up such that there's only a finite amount that will ever exist of any given cryptocurrency, and the units of the alleged so-called currency are released over time according to a definite schedule. There are more complications here. The blockchain, how this is paid for, and how things are kept track of, all of that is really interesting, and I think the blockchain is much more interesting than cryptocurrency itself. But I'm just going to set that aside for now because it's not relevant to what I'm interested in here today. And what I'm interested in here today is the status of cryptocurrencies as currencies. Now let's start off with what the appeal of these things is. They're not controlled by the government. You can basically transfer money anywhere around the world, and the supply is not subject to the whims of the government. So the idea is we have these fiat currencies around the world, right? The government controls the money supply. It can arbitrarily increase the money supply. That's called inflation. It's fiat currency. The denominations of wealth are subject to sudden and arbitrary increase by the centralized authorities, which makes your currency worthless. It's the hidden confiscation of wealth, as I think Alan Greenspan called it before he betrayed everything he believed in. That's what happens when you print money, when you inflate. You have $10 representing a certain amount of wealth. You have $1 of that. That means you have 1/10 of all the wealth that exists. Now, if some authority can just print more denominations, and now they're $20, you now have 1/20th. You didn't see any physical change, because once you abstract away from wealth into currency, people can steal your money without taking anything physical, because you don't have the wealth, you have the representation of wealth. And so if people increase the number of denominations of wealth, your specific denomination is worth less. Your money is worth less. That's all I'm saying here. You inflate the money supply, each piece of money is worth less. And governments can and have done this, and it leads to truly horrible things. Depending on how knowledgeable you are of economics, this may just sound like an annoyance or an oh dang, but it truly leads to starvation, slaughter, war. It is absolutely horrific. So, people see in these cryptocurrencies a way of getting around that. We don't have to pay attention to what the government says anymore. We have our own currencies that can't be arbitrarily inflated, and therefore people can have confidence in them and will prefer them over whatever government currency is used in their areas. Here's the problem, however. I'm going to take you along with a rapid explanation of why currencies develop and then show why cryptocurrencies fail to meet the standard of an ideal currency. So, in the beginning, you're on an island, you make huts, and you fish for food to survive. But then you get the idea, oh, what if I just make huts and this other guy just fishes and then we trade? I can specialize, we can each do our own thing, we'll be more productive overall. Okay, so you do that. Now you're bartering. But this quickly gets out of control. Bartering, straight bartering, does not work for long, because if you're cutting down trees and trading them for things, not everybody's going to need wood all the time. Not everybody's going to need the huts you build all the time, or the fish you fish all the time, the fish you catch all the time. So what you need is a common medium of exchange that everybody will accept, that can serve as a unit of economic calculation, and that will act as a store of value. These are the three functions of money, the canonical three functions of money. Medium of exchange, gold, for instance. If everybody accepts gold, okay, I have a lot of fish to sell. They're going to go bad. Now, maybe I don't need this guy's hut because I already got a hut, but I can sell him these fish right now in exchange for gold, which I can then use in the future. He needs fish now, so he can give me the gold for them, and then I have the gold, which I can use later. So the fact that this thing is a store of value is actually largely what's responsible for its being a medium of exchange and a unit of economic calculation. Everybody can think of things in terms of how much it costs in gold. You can reduce everything to the same kind of measurement in terms of gold. It's like, I play video games on PC, and whenever I'm rejiggering the graphics settings or the resolution, anything like that, you treat it in terms of how many frames per second will this cost. Right? I can have higher FPS if I turn down the resolution or the anti-aliasing or other graphic settings. So frames per second then is my unit of gaming calculation, right? So that's how money is. But it can only be that way because everyone will accept it, so you can plan on using it to trade over time, and people will only accept it because it is a store of value. Store of value just means it's something you can have and let sit there, just let it be static, and it retains its value. It's not like fish. You catch a fish, the fish goes bad, right? Gold you can just keep around in a vault, in a bank, wherever. It's always valuable. And gold is objectively valuable, which is why it has been the preferred commodity tying currencies to reality. But then you get to today, and we're off the gold standard, and some people I have spoken with have suggested that, look, gold is not this intrinsically valuable thing. Okay? We now have this new way of engaging in economic activity. We now have this new currency, this new medium, this new way of exchanging. And the suggestion is that people like me who still think that gold is the only way to go, we are really just being rationalistic. It's been gold for so long that we have rationalistically plucked this arbitrary premise out of thin air because of association. For so long, gold has been the right answer that we've let that idea ossify. And now we are incapable of looking at the new context, the bold new future we're in, and seeing the value of cryptocurrencies, their superiority to commodity-based currencies. Now, of course, that is all completely wrong, which I'm sure you could tell from my tone. No, gold is not intrinsically valuable. Nothing is intrinsically valuable. Gold is valuable because it is objectively valuable to human beings in a specific context. And we are still in that context. We will be out of that context if we discover some way of easily mass-producing gold, indistinguishable from the kind of gold that already exists. If we get Star Trek replicators, then we will have to find something else. But as for now, it is still crucial to use a commodity, best one of which is gold. So the real answer to the question implied by the title of this video is that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are fundamentally unsound because they are not commodities. Currencies must be commodities. There shouldn't even be any such thing as dollars. Dollars are invalid. Currencies are commodities. They are amounts of commodities. There's no dollar. There's grams of gold. It should be a measurement of a thing that is valuable by itself. Now, I have heard people say, no, the commodity use case, that's secondary, that's not essential. Well, it is essential. It is fundamental because what gives a currency its nature as a store of value? It is the fact that it is a commodity. Its nature as a commodity is what makes it a store of value, a certain kind of commodity. It's the fact that it is a thing in reality that is valuable. It can't be arbitrarily duplicated or inflated. It is a thing that exists out there in the world. Now, it's valuable to human beings, but it does also exist out there in the world apart from us, which makes it objective. Cryptocurrencies are not backed by gold or any commodity. They are not commodity-based. And because of this, they can proliferate without end. This is the problem with cryptocurrencies. You can always make another one. Every individual one can be limited and finite, but then somebody else can just make another cryptocurrency. You can't do that with gold. You can't do that with things that exist in the world objectively. This is why cryptocurrencies are not ideal. They are ultimately just as subjective as fiat currency. They are fiat currency. Now, there's a certain sense in which you could take that to be an invalid concept because in a political context, fiat implies force, and I don't think these should be illegal. Cryptocurrencies should be illegal, but in a deeper philosophical sense, they are fiat in the sense that they are just as subjective. You can really analogize this to the difference between dictatorship and democracy. And people say, well, who do we want to be ruled by? One guy or the majority? Oh, well, of course the majority. That's freedom, right? You know that's wrong. The same thing is true here. You don't say, well, who do we want to control the money supply? The centralized authority that is the government, or everyone? Now, of course, everybody should be allowed to make his own currency, but that's not the issue here. The issue is what should be the standard. And just as in politics, it is a false dichotomy to say, well, it's either one person or many people. No, it's no people. It's reality. It's a document of written principles, an objective document. Same with currency. You don't say, well, we want the government to decide the money supply, or we want all of the people deciding the money supply. The fact that it's a bunch of people being subjective doesn't improve anything. The analog here to the Constitution or a written document is the commodity nature of currency, is its being a commodity, a thing in the world that has objective value. It's not anybody just deciding, it's an objective fact. Just like when people talk about politics, it's not what consciousness are we going to let rule? The dictator or the amalgamated consciousness of the masses? No, it's what are the principles we're going to live by, as expressed objectively. Same thing with currency. It's not who just gets to decide what currencies they should go with. Having a crypto so-called currency, you have no basis for reality, so it doesn't matter how many people get together and agree to it. It will ultimately collapse and not work. Because for people to agree on something, they have to be agreeing on the basis of reality. And money's tie to reality is its nature as a commodity, as being a part of reality that is valuable to people. Now, I am not saying it has no value today. What I'm saying is that it would not exist in a free society. It is not the ideal way things should be. Given that we have government-controlled currencies around the world, this may be a good workaround, but it is not the next step an ideal society would take. It is a workaround. It's like Patreon. I'm glad Patreon exists. I love it. I use it. You can donate to mine if you'd like. But it should not exist. In a free society, Patreon would not exist. It is a product of the blockage of rational avenues of investment by the government. So Patreon springs up as a way around it. It's just the water flowing around the rock that the government placed there. And that's exactly what Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are. So they may be totally valid. I'm not saying they are philosophically unsound, therefore it's going to collapse immediately and you shouldn't have anything to do with them. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they are not ideally what would exist. They are not the next evolution of human production and exchange. They are a possibly legitimate workaround for disastrous government intrusion into our lives. Now, how they are going to interact with existing state fiat currencies, I don't know. That is too detailed, too complicated for a philosopher. As Dr. Peikoff once said, philosophy is about everything in general and nothing in particular, so I'm afraid I can't give you investment advice. But I would be wary. And I would just understand the philosophical basis of currencies. And if you understand that, you will grasp that they have to be tied to reality. Otherwise, what you have is really nothing more. Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, is really nothing more than the democratization of fiat currency. People love this word democratization as if it's a good thing. Well, it's not a good thing. Because it implies, well, if we let everybody choose, it's just mob rule. If we let everybody do something that's inherently superior, all we can do is be subjective. Really, it's almost worse than dictatorship the way some people use it. Because the way people use democratization is to suggest that nothing's true unless most people believe it. So the only standard we can have is other people. It's a very anti-rational, anti-existence attitude. Anyway, the bottom line is a currency should be a commodity, or rather, that is what makes it a legitimate currency. That is its tie to reality. And if you unmoor from reality, well, then it doesn't matter on whose say-so you're doing it. It doesn't matter if it's the governments or the majorities or whoever. If you go away from objective existence, you are not going anywhere good. So I think that's all I had to say about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. I have many videos coming up, aside from just this weekly podcast, which still goes up on Mondays every week, although this one will probably go up sometime technically Tuesday morning. A video that should be coming out soon is my discussion with Rucka Ali. He's a famous parody YouTuber Been around since the mid-2000s. His videos get millions of views. Very successful. He's co-host with Maddox. Everybody knows Maddox. Of the Best Debate in the Universe podcast. And Raka and I talked for 6 hours, and I am probably going to put it all up totally uncut. I have to watch it all to make sure I didn't say anything completely stupid. I got a little tipsy and, in my view, incoherent over that 6 hours. Now, Rucka says I did not come off as tipsy and hard to follow, but now that I have had a chance to soberly think about some of the things we talked about, I have some more things I'd like to say, so I will discuss those in forthcoming podcast episodes. I've been quite busy with real work lately, just trying to survive. So my ambition outstrips my time, which is why I've only been keeping up with these podcasts every Monday for a while, but I have a lot of other stuff just almost done. So maybe there will be an avalanche of content soon. In any case, you can send me any questions you have through my email, charles.a.2@gmail.com. You can comment on YouTube or anywhere I am likely to look. Some people send me messages through the feedback field on my website. Whatever you want to do is fine with me. You can, of course, go to my website, charlestew.com. There you can find information on and links to all my work, including ways to support it. And you can support it on Patreon. I now am $1 short of my earliest real Patreon goal. So I've seen some success there. And that's the way to support me if you would like to. If you'd like to promote and make possible more content like this. I have a commentary of Thaddeus Russell on Joe Rogan's podcast coming up. I have a commentary of Armored Skeptic's free will video coming up. And then, of course, my 6-hour discussion with Raka. And I'm still planning on recording a commentary of a philosophical discussion Raka had with Maddox while they were playing Sonic Mania. And I have many other things going on too. Those are just all of the things that I have almost ready to go. So you can look forward to those, and thanks for listening. Let's meet again in episode 37.